Oh, six. So we're almost at the end, people. We have two more movies to smash out of this franchise, and then we are wrapped up on another franchise on my channel. We still have the final chapter to go, and then we have Jigsaw to go. So, yeah, those reviews will be coming out in the next couple of days. I'm going to be watching final chapter tonight, and then followed by Jigsaw the following night. So, yeah, and also I just want to say thank you for the response and thank you for the positive feedback, like for this review series. I've had such a blast going back and rewatching and looking at the timeline connections for this franchise, and if it wasn't for you guys, I would not be making these reviews. So, and yeah, this review series has been one of my most successful. So, yeah, and that's all to you guys. So yeah, thank you for watching my content. Thank you for supporting it. Saw 6 I haven't seen in a number of years. It's maybe been a good maybe 2-3 years since I've actually seen this movie. So you're going back and rewatching this movie, everything was a blur. Like, I don't remember much about this movie at all. There are snippets or portions of Saw 6 I do remember. But as far as the overall story and the end twist, I did not remember. So with this viewing, since it's been a number of years, I was just going to go along with the story and see how the twist would hit me, because this is probably one of the only twists in this franchise that I do not remember. I do not remember at all. So I went into this movie pretty open-minded, and I was also hoping it was going to be a lot better than Saw 5, which it definitely is. This is definitely an improvement over Saw 5. Which I'm glad about, because this movie has I have some explaining to do there. That's not to say Saw 5 is not terrible, but the more I think about that movie, the more I don't like it. Since I put my review out, there are a lot of stuff that, like, the more I think about, the more I dislike about that movie. And like, I know there are fans of Saw 5. And for people who can enjoy that movie, like, more praise to you. I'm glad you can enjoy Saw 5. But yeah, as for my opinion on that movie, like, the more I think about it, the more I dislike it. Because since I've watched that movie and since I've filmed my review and certain things I brought up in my review, I can't stop thinking about it. And the more I do think about it, the more I connect the dots together, the more I don't like it. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, I was looking forward to Saw 6. And this movie has probably some of the best kills. It has probably one of my favorite opening traps in this entire franchise, because it really catches you off guard. But yeah, I'll get to that. I love the opening title cards in every Saw movie. How you have, Lionsgate Pictures, and then you have Twisted Pictures where the wire twirls around the Twisted Pictures logo, and then it throws it away. Like, that is great stuff, and it's just like that's. Like that, when you see them, you know you're watching a Saw movie. When you see the Lionsgate logo first and followed by the Twisted Pictures, like, you know you're watching a Saw movie. And yeah, and it's just like, I think they're really creative, like, title sequences. I don't think that they get enough credit for that. Like, that has nothing to do with the movie. I just thought I would throw that as a bonus, because I've never mentioned that in any other Saw review before, and I just don't think it gets the credit it deserves. So yeah. So the opening trap to this movie is skinny versus overweight. Like, who would win if someone was to cut off their flesh? Like, who would win? And what I meant earlier by it really catches you off guard is the end result, is the payoff to this trap, because you would expect the overweight person to win, since they have the most pounds and they have the most weight and flesh on them. But in this case, the skinny person actually is the one to survive this trap, and all she does is cuts off her arm, which is more flesh than the scale can handle. And so she wins. The overweight guy dies, and like this is a painful trap as well. And there are some really fantastic like kills in this movie and traps. But this is a painful trap because like it's drilling into your skull, which that is just painful thinking about it. I think both actors for the minor amount of screen time they have like at the opening of this movie, I think they both do a really good job. This movie is starting off on a really surprising note where it's playing with audiences' expectations, where you think it's going to go this way and this person will survive the trap, but nope, where actually this person will survive because she or he did this. And just like that's what I love about this franchise is it's not afraid to take risk, and it's not afraid to play with audiences' expectations, and just like that's a part of the fun of watching a Saw movie is going along with the ride and going along with the twists and the surprises like that a Saw movie throws at you. And I think the opening trap, I think this is a great example of that, because like when you see the girl in the opening scene, like she is really skinny. So you think like she has like the lower hand here. Like you think she'll be the one to die in a competition against skinny and overweight. But this opening trap proves you otherwise. So yeah, that's one of the reasons for why I love this opening trap. Why I think it's one of the best in this entire franchise. And so what else? So Hoffman gets out of the glass box, which there is no surprise there, since at the end of the last movie, Strom died and Hoffman was in a glass box. Was in the glass box, seeing Strom, seeing Strom being crushed to dust. And as I said, they have some fantastic practical gore at the end of Saw 5 where you see his bone come out and snap, and oh man, that is some fantastic practical gore in that movie. And like, say what you want about like the gore in Saw 5, which I honestly was not a fan of it. Like the ending of that movie, where you see his bone, snap, and just oh man, like the practical gore and like how they shot that and how they created that. It's amazing stuff. So when Hoffman gets out of the glass box, he walks into the room where Strom was crushed to dust, and we see his dead body, hanging from the ceiling, and then it drops, and like just the practical gore on that scene alone is incredible. Like the opening scene and the scene following it where we see Strom's body, dead body drop from the ceiling, like that is probably some of the best practical gore like in this entire franchise. It looks real. And just like the makeup on it is on point. Yeah, all of the practical effects in Saw 6, I think it has to be some of my favorite in the entire franchise. Like, I think Saw 2 has some amazing practical effects and has some amazing traps, but I think Saw 6, I think is very close up there if we're talking like practical effects and like practical gore, because like everything that's on display in this movie, like I think is fantastic, and it has some really cool twist as well in this movie. Like nothing, to me, like nothing can beat Saw 4's twist, where it's a movie within a movie. Like that twist still shocks me, just thinking about it. And like I've seen Saw 4 like multiple times, and that twist still gets me. But yeah, I think Saw 6. I think like going in like fresh minded and not have seen this movie for a few years. Like all of the twists and all of the reveals in this movie, like some of them like were shocking to me. Like there was one coming up, which I'll talk about. So the police department think Strom is responsible for the Jigsaw murders, and they think Strom is the Jigsaw killer because they tracked his phone at the end of Saw 5, and it was traced into Jigsaw's warehouse. Where like the security cameras were and all of his planning and blueprints for the traps were, and so Detective Erickson like immediately thinks like he's the Jigsaw killer. But then in Saw 6, like the investigation element of that is one of the best parts of this movie, because Detective Erickson, like I'd say he is really on his game in this movie. Like he's investigating the Jigsaw killings from like different perspectives here, and he's trying to get to the bottom of it, and he's working with Detective Perez. Which she's back in this movie. Yeah, she's alive, and she has like stitches on her face from when the puppet blew up in her face, and we all thought she was dead, but no, apparently she is alive, and she just has a few stitches in her face here, which I did not realize. I did not see that twist coming. But then, how it's executed in this movie, it does make sense. Detective Erickson and Detective Perez, like they are both on Hoffman's ass in this movie. Like they're just like this close from solving like who the real Jigsaw killer is. And like that they are just a couple of steps away from like finding out who's really done it. And like I think this is the best Detective Erickson's character has been in a Saw movie as far as involvement. Like he's really playing up the whole investigation and detective aspect, and just like I really liked his character. I really liked his character in this movie. Because like he's looking at the investigation from different perspectives, and he's as a cop should, and he's not just looking at it from the one perspective that like Strom is the killer. Like he that is one of the main focuses for the investigation in this movie, but he's also looking at it like, what if Strom was set up, and if so, like what is Strom's motivation? And Detective Perez, she helps out a lot with what is Detective Strom's, because he would what would his motivation be for killing all these people, and then Detective Hoffman, he comes back with a great response where he says it's not what they show outside, it's what's going on inside, which is where a lot of the madness and the chaos comes from, which he does have a point on that. And then I thought that was a really cool piece of dialogue from Detective Hoffman, and he is calm all throughout this movie. Like the actor who plays Detective Hoffman, I cannot think of his name right now, but he is really damn good in this movie, and he is good consistently throughout all of this franchise. One of the things I really love about his performance is he can keep a great balance between being chaotic and then being someone else when you're around friends, family, and the cops. Which I think he does an amazing job in this movie of showing those two different personalities of him. And I was surprised at how calm Detective Hoffman was throughout the whole investigation. When the cops got close to solving out who it was, he stayed calm. He didn't blow his cover as being a Jigsaw's apprentice, and being the one who has set up these previous games and killed these victims, and who killed Seth and all that. And so massive props to the to the actor who plays Detective Hoffman, which I should have wrote his name down here, but I didn't. So yeah, but yeah, he does an incredible job in this movie. It's just like I loved how he kept that stability and that realism to his character, and yeah. What else do I have written down here? Simone, which was the character from the opening trap of this movie. She's in the hospital getting help, and her arm is all secured, like it has a bandage around it, so all the bleeding has stopped. And I think that's the last time that we see her in this movie. I think we see her during the gathering group in Saw 7, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm pretty sure I saw her there. So yeah, but yeah, I'll find out when I watch Saw 7. The box from John Kramer holds six envelopes, and five of them goes to Detective Hoffman. Detective Hoffman, he goes around capturing William and some of his other workmates that were only briefly seen at the beginning of this movie, like a quick, like 30-second role. Like for example, the janitor in this movie, like he's involved in one of the traps in this movie, and he's only seen for like a quick shot, like barely 15 seconds of screen time, and he's only seen once, and his character has there is a story to him and a past of heart attacks that he has had in the past due to smoking, which I'm coming up to that trap now. Well, in a minute, sorry. And what else? So yeah, Detective Erickson finds clues to the jigsaw pieces left on the victims. So yeah, for each victim, there's a piece of their skin carved out like a jigsaw piece, as I've said in my other reviews. And the thing, Detective Erickson and the surgeon was actually one who found this out. They found out that the cutout of the jigsaw piece in the victim's body was different. There was a different knife used for the current victims to the ones that were used in Saw 4, Saw 3, and Saw 2. And Hoffman, he brings all the evidence back to Strom because he's on the police side here, where he's trying to make Strom like the main suspect here, and he's trying to back all of his evidence, and he's trying to lure the conversation back to Strom, so the cops don't suspect anything about Hoffman. And so yeah, he brings up this point about what if Strom used a different knife, and then the cops are like that's possible, but they just don't think so. Because as far as Detective Erickson knows, Strom, he's still alive and he's still out there, and he's still killing people, because the cops don't know that Hoffman killed Strom in the following game, in the previous game, sorry. And so they think he's just out there hiding because the cops have found out who he really is, and so there is still evidence to back up for why Strom could be the potential killer. But Detective Erickson, that's really only maybe the first quarter of this movie that they stay with Strom is the killer. But they don't. But then after that, they go more into what if it was a setup? Yeah, which is the stuff I really dug about this movie, and the investigation aspect. What else? So Jill follows out John's final request, which is a flashback, kind of giving context to this later on, which I'll talk about that when I get to that. And so, yeah, each envelope holds a victim's photo for who Hoffman has to capture and find for this game. And so, yeah, Hoffman captures William. And then there's a flashback where Amanda and Jill meet once again because Amanda used to visit Jill for drugs. And then there's our next trap, which is the smoking trap, where there's a smoker and a non-smoker. There's William and the janitor that we saw briefly in the first 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, and now he's in a trap where there's a bit more of a character for him, but not much. And so, like this trap is pretty obvious, like the way it will go down. Like obviously a non-smoker's lungs would be healthier than a smoker's lungs, and so a non-smoker's lungs would they would be able to the person would be able to hold their breath for longer than someone who smokes would. So yeah, I think this is a really clever trap. Because if the janitor did survive, there is a lesson that was taught through this, was to give up smoking, because it is as John Kramer always says, there's a second chance for everybody, and the janitor, he could have had his redemption. But yeah, unfortunately, he failed, and William proceeded on with the game. So Hoffman, and then this is in a flashback, we learn that Hoffman and Amanda worked on Saw 3's game. So yeah, the game that we see during Saw 3, it's the rack kill was actually built by Hoffman, and Amanda was also in on that game as well. And Amanda says to Hoffman, "You should stick to the heavy lifting," which I really like this because it's a throwback to the Angel kill, where the cops found out that Amanda was too short to lift the body up and chain it up. So I'm just thinking. So in Saw 3, we saw the Angel trap, and then in Saw 4 was the investigation by Hoffman and his police team, and then they find out that Amanda could not have lifted her up, and they needed someone taller, and so that's what I'm taking out of this dialogue. But at the same time, if they're setting up the Saw 3's game, that means it hasn't happened yet. So you should stick to the heavy lifting, unless they've already set up her trap, and she's just joking around with Hoffman. So okay, so this trap. What I'm getting from this dialogue is this trap hasn't happened yet, but it's already been built, and she's already chained up to the trap, and everything's all ready. So that's what I'm taking out of that dialogue there. So yeah, John gives Jill the key to unlock the chest box, and this is all in a flashback. And so the chest that we saw at the end of Saw 5, there is a bit more of a context, and we do find out what is actually in the box in this movie. At the very end of the movie is what we find out what Jill was so shocked about during Saw 5. So yeah, I'll get to that. I'll get to that when I talk about the twist. John. Okay, so John says, "When the time is right, you'll know what to do," and then that also ties into the twist ending of this movie as well. And Jill in this movie, she plays like an apprentice, like Jigsaw's apprentice, because she is working for Jigsaw in this movie, like as her wife, but then also kind of helping him out, like with doing his final request. So in a way, yeah, she is one of his apprentices, but she's not like heavily involved. Like Jigsaw's main apprentices is Amanda Hoffman and Dr. Gordon. So yeah. And then there's the hate chamber trap where William needs to save his lawyer, and this is a painful trap to watch. Like it's not so much graphic until the end of it, but like if you've touched like a hot bowl, like it burns you. And now imagine that like coming out at like 100 miles an hour, like on your skin, like that is like to me just painful. Then the final part of this trap is the person who's in the trap. She needs to cut open William because the key to her victory is inside William, which explains the stitches that we saw after the smoking trap, and that's why he couldn't walk well at first, is because the key's hidden inside of him, which, yeah, she needs to cut him open. William backs off because his lawyer is coming at him like with a razor blade of sorts, and like that would just be the natural body reaction. Like if anybody was to come at you with like a chainsaw or any like type of razor blade, like you would back off. Do I've written down here? Detective. Okay, so Detective Erickson and Perez, they crack the code on who the Jigsaw killer is, and they find out that it's not Strong because they play with the audio of Seth's trap at the beginning of Saw 5, and they play around with that, and they try to find out who the voice impersonating Jigsaw is, and they find out that it's Detective Hoffman, and then Hoffman like goes on a rampage and he slashes Detective Erickson's throat and throws hot coffee in Perez's face, and then stabs her multiple times, and then Hoffman, he sets the audio room on fire, so none of the evidence would trace back to him. So yeah, Amanda told Cecil, which, you know, the last time we saw him was in Saw 4, and there is a bit more of a story to him. So Amanda told Cecil to get drugs for her, and as a result of Cecil's actions and his abusive actions towards Jill, like this caused the loss of Jill's unborn baby. The what is it? The document that John left Jill contained 6 envelopes, and so 5 of them went to Hoffman, and the sixth envelope went to Jill, because the box that she got in Saw 5, like it contained all of the victims' documents and their files, but it also contained the reverse bear trap, which Jill places on Hoffman's head, because this was John's final wish, was to test Hoffman, and so yeah, this was his test, was to get out of the reverse bear trap, and Jill threw away the key to this trap, so there's no way of Hoffman getting out. And so and so Hoffman, he with the front of the reverse bear trap, like he's banging that and smashing that onto his hand, to free himself, before the timer runs out. The front of the reverse bear trap in the middle of it. So when the timer goes off and when the reverse bear trap activates, it doesn't activate fully, and so Hoffman, he pulls it off his head, and yeah, and you see that there's like you see that half of his lip is hanging off, and there's some really cool like makeup on display in that little scene there. The other twist in this movie is the game that we're seeing with William. This game was never intended for William. It wasn't his game, and so once he gets to the finish line, like that's when he puts the dots together that because he made it all the way through before the 60-minute time ran out, but then he finds out that this is not his game, and the couple in the other cage, the wife and the son, that it was their game all along. And so now they have the choice. They have the choice on whether or not to let William survive after what he did to their husband, and 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 William's wife is in the cage on his left, I believe, and so yeah, like she's saying like, please don't do this, please no, and all that, um, and the wife in the other cage, like she's like, why should I let you live, like you killed my husband, like you are the murderer. You know what, I would love to see her be put into a game, because the amount that you would do for yourself to live is infinite. Like you would do anything to live to the next round, or to live your life. So I would love to see her being put into this game and see if she would kill other people's husband, so like her life can be the one to be freed. I would love to see what her reaction would be, and what she would do, because I feel like what William did, I feel like it is the most realistic, because you would be doing like anything. Since you're one playing this game, you have some control over it. Like if it was their life or your life, like you would like be doing anything like for you to live. Like it's a survival of the fittest like type scenario, where like if you don't kill like 5 people. Actually, no. What was it? It was four. Was it 4 or 5 people? So I think there were 6 people altogether, and I think he had to kill 4 because 2 had to remain standing, or 2 had to live. But yeah, and also here's the other thing as well. Like that's the requirement of this game, and so it's just, yeah, I would love to see what her reaction would be and how she would deal with the scenario William just had to deal with, because I feel like, yeah, she would do it the exact same way. So yeah, but yeah, then of course, like they choose for William to die, and William's death in this is probably one of the most disturbing in this entire franchise. Like it's a really graphic and painful death. Um, like as a lot of traps in this movie. This one is the microphone drop of Saw 6, where there's this cage above him that swings down, and it has like these needles attached to it, and it's injecting acid into him, which, oh man, like this scene is like, it has some great makeup on display. Like when you see his body split, like you see his intestines and all of that, and like fuck, it looks incredible. Like practical work, like the makeup designers, the practical effects artists on this film, like fucking massive props to you, because like the because the practical gore in this film like is some of the best in this entire franchise. Ending scene is so painful to watch. Like not knowing what the ending of this movie was, it was extremely shocking, and like this kill probably has the biggest reaction out of me out of all the traps in this entire franchise. Like I was shocked and disturbed at the same time, because that's what this death like that's the reaction that your body has to this kill. And but yeah, like putting all that aside, like the all of the practical effects, like in that scene alone, and just like seeing like the inside of of his body and all of that, but before it gets like cut, sliced in half, like you see all the acid, like you see all the acid like injecting into him, and you see it through his clothing, and like all of that is just like is fucking on point. Like yeah, the practical effects in that final trap is, that's probably the best, that's probably the best practical like work in this entire franchise. And I'm being honest when I say that. Like Saw 2 has some amazing, practical effects, and this whole franchise, like if there's one consistent positive I can give to this entire franchise, like it's the practical effects, like obviously, because all of the traps, like they have some fantastic practical effects, and there's very minor CGI in this franchise. And just like that's one thing I respect so much about Saw, is they aren't afraid to go messy. They aren't afraid to actually get their hands dirty. Like they like practical, and they're fans like practical. And I would much rather prefer like practical gore over CGI, over CGI gore, because like CGI, it doesn't work well, like in a horror movie. And plus yeah, practical gore in a horror movie, it's so easy to make, like as well, like myself, like making short films and all that, like it is genuinely like really easy to make. So like I don't know what the point is if you were to make CGI gore. Like if this whole franchise was CGI and no practical, like these traps, I don't think they would have the same impact like as they would if they were practical, because knowing that that's kind of what's happening. And the other thing is like after you see like the payoff to your practical effects, like there's like that you feel accomplished, like there's an achievement you have made there. And you're always testing, you're always stretching your skills. And it's just yeah, the practical effects in this franchise is amazing. So yeah, that is my review for Saw 6. I took 3 pages of notes for this movie, and I've already been talking for around about 40 minutes. So yeah, this is my longest review in my Saw series to date. But yeah, there was a lot to talk about in this movie, and I am looking forward to watching Saw 7, the final chapter. Like knowing what the twist is, and like seeing if my reaction has changed to that movie, especially like I'm going to be I'm curious to see what my reaction will be, because like I remember like really liking saw the final chapter. So yeah, we will see on whether or not like whether or not like that reaction like holds up on like who knows, maybe this viewing like I might absolutely hate it. I might think it's the worst fucking Saw movie, and yeah, but yeah, yeah, time will tell. And yeah, when my review comes out, um it's yeah, you guys will see, you know, you will see my reaction to the movie. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, that is my review for Saw 6. If you have seen Saw 6, let me know down in the comments. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you think it was mad? Or did you really not like it? Let me know all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. So anyways, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night, wherever you are. And I'll see you in the next video. Alright, bye.